Good morning and welcome.
Good morning.
Welcome to the Center for Spiritual Living right here in beautiful Fullerton, California. My name is Tomoko Rosas and I'm a practitioner here at the center. Please join me in stating our purpose statement. We are a loving spiritual community, empowering all to live healthy and successful lives through practicing the principles of science of mind. So a few announcements before we get started. And first of all, just wanted to say our heartfelt prayers go out to all those affected by the wildfires in California. And I heard that OC211 or 211OC.org is partnering with Airbnb to offer accommodations for temporary housing for those evacuated. And more information is coming forward, so I will post that information online for those who need it. And then also this morning I got a word that FEMA is also offering some help. So I will go ahead and do some research and I'll post the links to our website. Welcome back, Reverend Bill and Beverly. Yay! And we're still calling out for the slogan for 2025. And I'm sure you saw the list in there. It's getting big, so I'm not going to read it all off. But some of them are really, really cute and tongue-in-cheek. So we need help. So please submit your entry, and we will be voting for it next Sunday. Wednesday Spiritual Growth Support Group is back in session for let's see, for as long as we have need for it or demand for it. And that is weekly on Wednesdays at 1 p.m. Our annual membership meeting and potluck is scheduled for the last Sunday of this month. And if you are a voting member, please make the time to attend. We are going to go over important information for our church for 2025. And if you don't know your status, please see Sally or myself today. And mark your calendar. Spiritual Mind Treatment Workshop with Reverend Bill. Our very first workshop for 2025 is scheduled for Sunday, February 2nd after service. And more details to follow. Unexpected Income Club is doing great. And as you all know, we've reached our goal for 2024. And inching up. That just means that we're going to have to set another goal. Yeah. So please join us in that endeavor as well. Okay, and I'm going to pass it on to Michael and Tommy.
Okay.
Yes.
Need to be still. Let God love me. I need to be still. Let God love me. When this whole world starts to push and shove me, I need to be still. Let God love me.
So as we gather together on this beautiful day, please join me in knowing that God is all there is. God is the infinite intelligence, divine love, one power, one presence, one life. We live, move, and have our being in this one life. We are one and inseparable to the oneness of all. This is the absolute truth of who we are. And from this place of oneness, I bless this morning's service, knowing that it is already perfect, inspirational, and a blessing to everyone. And a special blessings go out to our friends and family and all those affected by the fires in California. What I know is that God is at the center of everything and everyone right now, directing, guarding, and healing everything in its perfect way. And I bless and thank our wonderful and dedicated volunteers and staff that make our service possible each week. There are blessings for the ushers and the greeters, our amazing musicians, my fellow practitioners, our wise board of trustees, the children and the loving teachers of our junior church, and a special blessing and a warm welcome back to Reverend Dr. Bill Salisbury, knowing that he is inspired and revitalized by his vacation and the rest, that he is ready to inspire us moving forward into 2025. With this, I declare the service good and very good, and so it is. So, good morning, my name is Tomoko Rosas. Once again, this morning's reading is from an excerpt from A New Design for Living, which was written by Ernest Holmes and Willis Kinnear. And this portion is called Changes Are Necessary. And they start with the quote from Lao Tzu, "As rivers have their source in some far-off fountain, so the human spirit has its source. To find his fountain of spirit is to learn the secret of heaven and earth." We are living in a world of continual change, a world in which thought, thing, and experience are all in a constant state of flux. It is the very nature of the universe that there should be continual change and variation. It is a living world, the creation of a living creative intelligence, not a static world created by a God now dead or departed, who has left it to decay. No, it is vital and alive. The mind that created it is not apart from it, but is always active in and through it. But behind that which changes, behind that which causes the change, we have found that there is something stable and changeless, something eternal, upon which all of the external events depend for their very existence. Behind the endless process of change and the infinite variety of experience and expression, there is that which does not change. We should never be afraid of change, never fearful of what will come. Instead, we should bring to bear in each new event the influence of the creative nature of our thought, an influence that is founded on an inward calm, a sense of certainty and peace, which will reflect itself in a changing scene of our everyday lives. As we look for and discover the nature of the infinite, which does not change, we find that we develop a complete trust in the integrity of it. We are again reminded of Einstein's remark that God does not play dice with the cosmos. And we then come to possess a feeling of security, which is enhanced by the knowledge that each of us has a personal and intimate relationship with the infinite. It is from this inward basis of certainty, this sense of awareness of our relationship to God, who is changeless, but from whom flow infinite expressions, that all our thoughts should flow. Now join me in prayer. And this prayer has been written by Dr. Ernest Holmes. Just know with me that there is one life, This life is perfect. This life is God. And this life is my life now. And I speak my word for all of us here and all of us, all that are hearing these words. Today I expect a more abundant life by keeping my every thought and expectation open to new experiences, to happier events, to a more complete self-expression. Giving out more love, I know a greater love in return. Sharing with life whatever good things I have, I know life shares with me the good that it possesses. Seeing beauty everywhere, I have a revelation of still more beauty. Seeing joy in everything, I know genuine laughter. More deeply sensing the divine tranquility in which all things exist, I have a deeper consciousness of peace and security. Through it all, I know that I am in the embrace of a warm, loving presence, forever seeking an outlet through me. So grateful for these words and this prayer, knowing that it is already done. I release my word into the law and let it be. And so it is.
Come with me, and you'll be in a world of pure imagination. Take a look, and you'll see into your imagination. We'll begin with a spin, traveling in a world of our creation. What we'll see will defy explanation. If you want to view paradise, simply look around and view it. Anything you want to, do it. Want to change the world, there's nothing to it. There is no life I know to compare with your imagination. Living there, you'll be free if you truly wish to be. Now, if you want to view paradise, simply look around and view it. Anything you want to, do it. Want to change the world, there's nothing to it. There is no life I know to compare with pure imagination. Living there, you'll be free if you truly wish to be.
Wow, that's Michael Whitney. Tommy Cosentino. We're in a new month. Month's theme is living the dream, because that's our goal, yes. I mean, if you didn't want to live the dream, would you own up to that? I don't think so. So, the title of today's talk is The Thing Itself. So, we're going back to basics. Because we need to go back to basics every once in a while, even though every Sunday, and in fact every day, it's back to basics. Because that's how we make it work. We don't need fancy, compounded, intricate, confusing layer upon layer upon layer of stuff to get us through. What we just need is a foundation that we can access that fast, cutting out the middleman, dispensing with all the red tape, just going right to the source. Source. See, that's another word that Ernest Holmes and others, especially these days, have used for the thing itself. Doesn't sound fancy. It's not poetic, it's not flowery, it's not emotional, and it doesn't conjure up these grandiose visions of total possibility. Or it does, depending on our perception of it, depending on our reception of it, depending on our awareness of it and our surrender to it. So the thing itself is simply a word. Is it a word? The thing itself? Sure, because it's hyphenated. So let's just call it a word. It's a name. Other names we use for this same thing are things like, I think Ernest Holmes used eternal essential. The eternal essential. Other words we have are that consciousness that grounds all being, and we call it divine consciousness, we call it mind, divine mind, or one, or power, or source, or spirit. And, well, sometimes we call it God. I just want to be really careful with that, because you know that word has been misrepresented and misused so often over the millennia that it just carries a certain amount of baggage with it these days. However, we have to get past the baggage. We have to get past that which is not real. We have to get to the true source, to the true meaning of it. You know, Jesus, the master teacher, called it Father. The Father does the work. And really, what it is that it's that life principle. And you know, as Tomoko's reading stated, you know, it goes on and on and on, right? It's constantly creative. That's what it does. It can't avoid it. It couldn't stop it if it wanted to. It's just, it's a life principle. It has to be constantly instilling new life into new forms and rebirthing life in the forms that are steadfast throughout our world. Wait a minute. So God created the world step by step in 6 days. I'm not going through all that. And then on the seventh day rested. We don't have any further news on what happened after the seventh day of resting. Either it's a continual rest, or it's a, well, no, I think I'll just sit up here on my throne and I'll cast favor on some and not on others, and I'll send some people just to to burn in hell for eternity for their sins, for their wrongdoing. And oh, by the way, I should be on the side of all those warring people that I've created. Problem is, if those warring people both have the same God, how does that choice get made? I mean, I don't understand. So, that isn't how it works. How it works is demonstrated perfectly in Michael's song, imagination. And so often we think of imagination as being fantasy, as being make-believe. Well, in a matter of speaking, it is make-believe, isn't it? Because we think it, we imagine it, we make it happen. When we believe it is possible, and when we believe it is our due, we make it happen because that life principle, that thing itself, guarantees that that's what's going to happen for us. Because we have that part within us that belongs to, and in fact is, in essence, and in every total aspect, any total way we can think about it, we are that. We have that divine inspiration within us. We have that divinity within us. We are made in the image and likeness of, not the other way around. So if we've got this angry, judgmental, warring God, who created that? Angry, warring, judgmental people. That's who created that. What we have is a life principle that operates for good and always in the same method. And we are fortunate enough, I'm not going to say we are graced by God. Well, we are, but not just select groups here and there. We can never fall out of favor. Okay? There's no such thing as a God that casts favor on some and not on others. We are all in favor because we are all part and parcel of that. We are all some part of that divine urge, some part of that everything, that isness, that being that is the thing itself that we call God. And what a great thought that is. And I know that that's the case. Ernest Holmes mentioned somewhere that we can't have apples without an apple tree. I think we'll all agree. We don't have to give a lot of thought to that. That's not one of these grandiose complexes. That's concepts. That's difficult to understand or to say. We can't have apples without an apple tree. We're the apples. We can't be apples without an apple tree. We had to come from a source. We had to be created. We had to be grown. We had to be nurtured. And we have within us, just like the apple has, all the qualities of the apple tree and vice versa in it. We have all the qualities of that divine beingness from which we come. And this presence, that is that power exemplified here on earth, is everywhere. You know, for many, many, many years we've talked about, well, in fact we still do, nothing, right? There's nothing. There's such a thing as nothing. Is there? No. There's no such thing as nothing. What we see between us, the space that we see, we call that nothing. Well, there's nothing there. Well, but there is something there, because what's there is the life principle. We can't see it, and it doesn't matter, because we can't see any principle. We don't insist upon seeing the principle of electricity or the principle of gravity or the principle of anything else. And yet, for some reason, when we come to talk about that principle that brought us here and that sustains us and that keeps us the beings that we are, we don't say, well, all right, show me God. Show me the life principle. Well, wait a minute. Lots of people say that. Show me. Well, I'm sorry. If I have to show you, I couldn't. I mean, if it was possible to bring the invisible into the visible, I couldn't do it for you. Because if you have that sort of a mindset, if you're not open to, if you don't have an open mind and you're not aware that there's something greater than we are, as Ernest Holmes said, there's a power greater than we are and we can use it. And that power is that life principle. That power is the thing itself. And we're going to talk in the coming weeks about how it works, what it does, how to use it. But right now, we just want to talk about, we need to get the substance of it. We need to get the foundation of it. We need to understand that there is something there. We don't have to see it. Because we see the results of it. We see the fruits of it, speaking of apples and us. We see the fruits of it everywhere we look. There's no place we can look and not see the demonstration of the divinity, that life principle that gives rise to all of creation. There's nowhere we can look and not see that. Wow. When we flip the light switch, we just want to see the light. When we drop something, we just want it to fall to the ground. But when we're trying to understand how we work, we don't want it to be so simple. We need it to be complex. We need it to be confusing. And for thousands of years, that's what has happened to us. The more grandiose we can make this thing, the better we sound. The more enlightened we sound, the more educated we sound, the more intelligent, the more comprehensive we sound. Forget that. Here's what we have to know. I'm here, and I'm here because I'm a direct representative of that divine power, of that spirit of life, of that life principle. And that's the only reason I'm here. And think about it. So we got 14 billion people on the planet. That's 14 billion instances of magic. Instances of, oh my God, I won the lottery. Because just think of all the souls that aren't here, that haven't individualized. I'm sure they're enjoying their stay, paradise as it was. But we get to be lucky enough to be here. There's a little excerpt from Emmett Fox. Probably everybody has seen this. It's called The Golden Key. Emmett Fox, Golden Key. And it's really straightforward and it's really basic. And what he says is this: scientific prayer will enable you to get yourself or anyone else out of any difficulty. It's the golden key to harmony and happiness. To those who have no acquaintance with the mightiest power in existence, this may appear to be a rash claim, but it needs only a fair trial to prove that, without a shadow of a doubt, it is a just one. You need to take no one's word for it, and you should not. You should simply try it for yourself. Why does he say that it's scientific prayer? And of course, that's what we say, right? This is religious science, science of mind. And it is that because it's based on a principle like any other science is. Science works kind of like this. We get an idea, we build a hypothesis, we test it, and we want to see if it can be replicated. And if it can, we describe a law considering it. What's the difference? We have to know then that faith, that spirituality, is a science in exactly the same way. We demonstrate it every day. And in fact, if we're not demonstrating our oneness with that great divine power that we can't see, if we're not demonstrating that every day by scientific method, by scientific prayer, we're not living our teaching. And that's what's so critical about this. And we don't even need a how-to manual. Because the how-to would only take up a page. Less than a page. Oh dear, well, we're going to have 3 more 20 or 30-minute talks about this. What happened to that less than a page, Bill? Well, sometimes it just takes longer to describe something. You heard the expression, it took longer to tell it than the event itself took. Well, here we are. And isn't that great? So, let's go to our founder, Ernest Holmes. And here's what he says in The Science of Mind, talking about the thing itself. Science knows nothing of opinion, but recognizes the governmental laws whose principles are universal. Universal means those principles can be applied anywhere, anytime, by anybody. This thing that we call spirit, this thing that we call God, this thing that we call divinity, is no respecter of persons, as he tells us. It's available to all of us. There's nobody who's left out. There's nobody who's not good enough. There's nobody who needs to improve a little bit in order to take advantage of this. Because all of us are whole, complete, and perfect when we get here. Now, the greatest thing for us, of course, is freedom. Isn't that what we want? And that's what separates us from every other being that has involved within itself this same source of divinity. And that is every being. Every being. And everything we call non-being. There's nothing in existence that hasn't been created from that divine substance and is not fueled by that divine power. But the difference between us and all the rest of creation is that we have freedom. We have freedom to choose. We have volition. If we don't have freedom, we're bound. Is that right? We're circumscribed. We're limited. And yet, for some reason, in the history of mankind, we have not only accepted that limitation, but we've foisted it upon ourselves. Somebody, I forget who it was, I read somebody saying that there's no bigger lie than history. Okay? I mean, history is, and it's solid, it's factual, but what we do with it is what turns it into a lie. And what he went on to say was, it's not any different than any other bad habit. Okay? And what I mean by that is, you know, we say, if you don't learn history, you're bound to repeat it. Well, hello, we've learned history. Yeah, if you've got an 8th grade education in this country, you've learned history. But here we are, repeating it. So it's not just about learning history will stop you from repeating it. It's learning history and not changing it. It's learning where we came from and not rearranging that in our minds, understanding that where we came from is not what we think. Where we came from was that divine mind that had the thought of me in it, that had the thought of you in it, that had the thought of this entire universe in it, and that's what created us. That's our history. Our history is not one of parents, grandparents, great-grandparents, all of that. Those are facts of life. Those are not facts of who we are. Those are the identities that we take on, leaving behind the true identity of ourselves, which is we are direct descendants of that life principle, direct descendants of that thing itself, that thing we call God. We are divine creatures, and when we don't keep that foremost in our minds, then we're going to act as if we are not. That's how the history of the world gets made. That's not the history of each of us. He goes on to say, the seed of freedom must be planted in the innermost being of man. But like the prodigal son, man must make the great discovery for himself. We have it. Our essence is exactly the same as that eternal essence. Exactly the same. It can't be any other way. We are made from that. We are that. That is our being. That is the isness that creates us and sustains us and keeps us going. But until we are aware of that, we're just bobbing around on the surface of this ocean that we call life. He also says, yeah, we don't want that. Oh, talking about how some people's prayers are answered. So we're going back to the God's grace. Are we up for it? Are we available? And what do we have to do in order to receive it? What we have to do is nothing. What we have to do is just stop doing. He says, since some people have been healed through prayer while others have not, the answer is not that God has responded to some and not to others, but that some have responded to God more than others. In other words, we get it backwards sometimes. It's those of us who have come to that place of recognition of our divinity that know how to approach the life principle, God, if you will, in scientific fashion, because that's what we're so about here. That's got to be scientific. Well, it is scientific because when we know our form of prayer, we know that it works, and it is scientific in that it can be replicated, it can be duplicated anywhere, anytime, by any person, under any sort of circumstances, including right now in this age of this turmoil that we've got going on around us right now. In his book, Practicing the Presence, Joel Goldsmith said this: the secret of harmonious living is the development of spiritual consciousness. We want to live in harmony. We want the freedom to be who we are. We have to develop our spiritual consciousness. The degree of spiritual consciousness which we attain can be measured by the extent to which we relinquish our dependence on the external world of form and play. We have to place our faith and confidence in something greater than ourselves, in that invisible something that's greater than ourselves. We don't have to see it to have faith in it, to trust it, to believe it. So, last month, during the holiday season, I was gifted this book by Darlene and Don King, Return of the Bird Tribes. And it turns out it's going to be, well, instrumental in describing some of the things we're going to talk about in the next few weeks, about this thing itself. And what he said, it is easier to flush toxins from the Earth's river valleys than to remove the toxic ideas that cause them from human minds. In the order of healing, it is human consciousness that first must change. So we have a situation in our world. Who brought that situation on? We brought it on. It's that collective race consciousness. It's that, sadly, it's just that the preponderance of thoughts that have been in this world, because this is a fear-driven world, and preponderance of thought has been negative. And we suffer from that. We suffer under it. But once we understand that, we can say to ourselves something like, self, not falling for that. This is back from the primitive Stone Age of fear and anxiety and not understanding and not knowing and not having the tools to cope with what life is bringing me. We have those tools now. We don't have to be stuck in that mindset. We have to understand that this thing itself is there for us. It not only created us, it's standing with us in every occasion, every instance, every circumstance and situation. Ralph Waldo Emerson, in his essay, The Oversoul, said this: man is a stream whose source is hidden. Always our being is descending into us from we know what, not whence. Well, we know not whence, in that manner of speaking, like we could describe it, that we could paint it, we could draw it, but we know where it comes from. It comes from that life principle that is everywhere, because there is nothing that is nothing. Everything is that life principle, and we're ensconced in it. It works in us and through us. It's coursing through our veins every second, and we're surrounded by it, and there's no way that we can be affected by anything when we align our thinking, when we align our mind with our heart and our soul, knowing that that's the truth of who we are. So we don't have to see it to understand it and to use it and make it work for us. So, how do we get into it? Well, we just have to trust it. We trust every other physical, scientific law. Why would we not trust a spiritual law that can be demonstrated and is demonstrated every second of every day? And if we just open our eyes and look around, we see it. We see the proof of this truth everywhere. So we'll begin talking next week about, well, what it does, how to use it, etc., etc. Remember, it's going to take less than a page, I promise. Just want you to know that sometimes, well, I extend the reading on the actual page, but for a good cause, because to just say, here's how it is, there's a life principle that supports us after first creating us, sometimes that's not enough. Sometimes we need to think about it more and more. Sometimes when we go into our own minds to align that subjective consciousness, we don't have two minds. We have one mind. It just has two stages, two phases. Our conscious mind and our subconscious mind. Our subjective mind. Our subjective mind is aligned totally, completely, and is indeed a part of the whole subjective mind of God. We don't use it all, but that doesn't mean we couldn't. It is infinite, and when our subjective mind connects with it, everything is possible, just like Michael was singing about. Everything is possible. If we can imagine it, we can do it. Problem is, it happens in our subjective mind, which means not a mind that we're aware of, not thoughts that we're aware of. Yet the good news is our conscious mind, that mind we think with, can direct that subconscious mind. So when we imagine something, when we think of something, when we wish or hope or desire something, all we have to do is have our conscious mind explain to our subjective mind that, by golly, we already have it. It's here. It's mine. Thank you, God. And we'll get into that more as the weeks turn out. So right now, I invite you to just know with me this truth. Know that this thing called divinity, this thing called the thing itself, this thing called our life within that, is not only available to mystics and saints and more educated people than we are. It's available to the least among us if we're talking intellectually. It's available to every soul, to every subjective consciousness, to everything that is participating on this plane that still is connected wholly and completely to that great subjective divinity, to that consciousness, to that divine mind, that life principle that has created all. When we understand this, when we accept this, when we take it on faith, because that's the only way we take any principle, when we take it and we work within it, we allow it to work in, as, and through us consciously, directing it to that good that is our birthright, then there is no limit. Our imagination is wide open. And because it is, so then is our ability to populate our world with those things that we can produce in our imagination. We're not constrained. We have the freedom to do this. We have the freedom to exercise our beingness, our isness in that one mind, and to develop and demonstrate from that into our world. Knowing this is the case, it's just with grateful heart I say thank you, God, for this. Thank you for this ability, and thank you for knowing that this ability is available within me. I just let this word go, knowing that it is so, knowing that it is the truth of who I am. I let it go, I let it be, and so it is. This is our time to shine our light, to share our abundance. We know that all of our good comes from that one source, God, and for this we are grateful. Thank you for your continued financial support as well as emotional and loving, heartfelt support, because it's that financial support that keeps us going. And for those who are not in attendance but watch this on video and continue to hit that donate button on the website and send in their tithes, thank you. So let's just know that we bless these gifts, these tithes, these offerings, knowing they are given from the central core of who we are, which is God made manifest on this plane. We send them forth to do their good work in this community and in the world at large, with no strings and no conditions, and so it is.
There's a new world coming, and it's just around the bend. There's a new world coming, this one's coming to an end. There's a new voice calling, you can hear it if you try, and it's growing stronger with each day that passes by. There we go. It's a brand new morning, bright and clear and sweet and free. There's a new day dawning that belongs to you and me. There's a new world coming, the one we've had visions of, coming in peace, coming in joy, coming in love. There's a new world coming, and it's just around the bend. There's a new world coming, this one's coming to an end. There's a new voice calling, you can hear it if you try, and it's growing stronger with each day that passes by. There's a brand new morning, rising clear and sweet and free. There's a new day dawning that belongs to you and me. There's a new world coming, the one we've had visions of, coming in peace, coming in joy, coming in love. Coming in peace, coming in joy, coming in love. Coming in peace, coming in joy, coming in love.
Whoa, it's not just coming, it's here already.
Oh yeah.
Michael Whitney and Tommy Cosentino, come on. Let's just know something together right now, right here. Something wonderful is happening through me right now.
Something wonderful is happening through me right now.
It's this thing called life.
It's this thing called life.
It's the life principle.
It's the life principle.
It's the thing itself.
It's the thing itself.
Whatever you want to call it.
Whatever you want to call it.
It's in me.
It's in me.
It is me.
It is me.
And I am it.
I am it.
Thank you, God, in me.
Thank you, God,